Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson. Today is a very philosophical day, so I'm joined by my co-host, Duncan Palamortis. Duncan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How's everything with you?
Life is good, man. I can't complain. The weather is starting to be sunny and warm, and that always lifts my spirits, and I get outside more. And yeah, I'm somebody that enjoys the warmer weather as a human. It gives me more energy. I feel just like recharged in the warmer seasons. I need to move to Los Angeles where you're at. I think I was kind of born to live there.
Yeah, right. I mean, you were talking about weather. I was like, what's weather? What does that word mean?
Yeah. Isn't it like it's like 70 and always
Oh,
70?
to me, it feels it's 70 all the time. It's like, I remember one of my colleagues is like, oh my God, I haven't, wear a jacket in 6 months. I was like, I haven't wear a jacket in 6 years, dude.
Yeah, the downside is that like it rains and then the world ends in LA, right? You have mudslides,
Right,
or it doesn't rain and all of a sudden everything's on fire.
right.
That's the downside to the perfect weather, but
Yeah,
I'll take the perfect weather 98% of the time.
sure.
So today we have a topic submitted from Greatness Village, a prominent villager who's going to come on the pod. He's a high-level poker player, and actually he wants to come on this pod to join some of these philosophical discussions because it's a thing that is near and dear to his heart, Humberto Jimenez. And Humberto in the Philosophical Friday channel in Greatness Village was I asked people for topics and got a bunch of topics sent back. And today is what is the poker dream, right? Like, what is a poker dream, and is a poker dream still attainable in the year 2022? Has it
Mhm.
changed over time? Questions along that path. And so we'll start out, with the first one. What is a poker dream, right? And I will defer to you here and let you go first because this is obviously kind of an abstract
Sure.
concept and a very personal thing.
Sure, yeah, and the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, or maybe not so obviously, is what is the American dream? Is the American dream still alive? This is one of the questions that people ask from time to time. And no, I'm not going to go there. We're not going to discuss the American dream. But the thing is that I do think there are parallels. And one thing that I'm thinking is that dreams are different for different people. So the poker dream is different for different people. Like for instance, in this day and age, there are people who have the bragging rights for playing as close to computers as possible, right? That was something that was not possible a few years ago, right? So somebody who's driven by competitiveness, they may say, you know what, I am the closest there is to a human playing like a computer. So I do believe that the dream is different for different people. But I think broadly speaking, what most people have in mind when they're talking about the poker dream, some things that could permeate among different individuals would be something along the lines of playing poker professionally for a living, meaning it's going to be their main source of income, or the only source of income, being able to support a family, do the things that they love. And there's also some other things which I think they are misconceptions that people have. Like a lot of people
What is
think.
Duncan's poker dream here? Instead of a more general sense, let's get more
Sure.
specific here. What's your poker dream? And my hunch is that this is a thing that is fluid and sort of changes, as you go along your poker journey. Or maybe I'm projecting because my
No,
my
no.
dream has certainly changed over time myself.
Sure. Yeah. So it has changed for me as well. I want to say that from day one, for me, it was something like along the lines of, I want to beat the system. I think really deep inside, I mean, sure, I'm not going to lie, like having a monetary reward or being able to finance the rest of your life is great, is obviously amazing. But there is something about being able to beat the system, finding something, live your own life, live your own way, make your own rules, be your own boss. There's something
Yeah,
fundamentally
you're hacking it.
liberating. Hacking it, exactly. That's a life hack. And I think, no matter how much, we like all of the side benefits, I think for me, that has always been at number one. How about yourself? What would you say would be the number one reason?
I think that resonates with me deeply. The life hack of sort of escaping the rat race.
Hmm.
My dream was just to never have to do an inane task
Hmm.
by that a boss wanted me to do for no reason ever again for the rest of my life. Like that, I wanted freedom and autonomy, and
Absolutely.
that was what I valued. And the competitive aspect of it too. I am a very competitive person. I've always been a competitive person in that, like, I don't know, it's just fun to me. And I don't know why, I was a cashier at 15 years old at a grocery store, right? And it was, how many groceries can I ring up per minute? Like, can I
Sure.
beat my friend, right? And it's just like a silly, very silly competition only in your own head that nobody cares about, and yet it's a part of me that drove my actions and my behavior.
Nobody's not technically true because you care about it, right?
Yeah, I
The,
care,
the
right?
most important person about this cares about it.
Right. That's true. And to me, it just felt like a quirk of my personality. It's like I don't know why I feel this need to, like, whatever thing that I'm doing, I want to do really, really well when nobody's even paying attention or watching. But like, it's a part of me, and that's a side that, like, poker itches, or scratches. That's an itch that poker scratches. So the competitive aspect of it was very valuable to me, even when it wasn't valuable, right? Even when I hated it, when I hated that,
Sure.
like, we had this life hack, but like none of my other friends are like going to work and like getting buried day after day after day, just like losing a bunch of money. It's kind of a, yeah, that's the downside of the path. So yeah, the freedom, autonomy, and yeah, I think that my dream was just never to have like an actual job again. And that was really cut and dry. I didn't care about bracelets. I didn't care about fame. I didn't care about, winning the WSOP main event like Mike McD. It was very simple for me. I just want to be able to pay my way through life playing this game that I really enjoy.
I can totally relate. If it wasn't for a specific reason that sort of relates to my immigration status that made me, having to be more visible and public because the government sort of like indirectly asked me to, like, I wouldn't probably be in the public scene at all. I'm a very private person, and I agree with you. Like, it's not necessarily about, because you said it earlier, I should probably finish my sentences sometimes. My mind.
It helps.
It helps if I finish my sentences. Yeah. So it's not about necessarily about awards, about trophies. And you mentioned earlier that nobody's watching, and again, you are, right? I mean, you are the person who's watching, and you are the person who is present in your life 100% of the time. So you are the most important attendant, basically, right? So you're
Yeah.
the most important viewer. So this is very relevant. And
It's a critical point, and not one that I've considered super in depth. But again, you kind of hit the nail on the head, because I do believe that I've always prioritized my view of myself as well, even as it relates to poker. I'm not afraid of like looking stupid. I'm not afraid of
mhm,
making a decision that like nobody else is going to make. Like, whatever, I don't care. Like, I think this is good, so I'm going to do that. And I do think that, like, really just that competition with myself of like, yeah, we're going to play above the rim. We're going to do things other people aren't going to do. And guess what? Like, that's where my edge is.
right.
That's something that like has always been valuable to myself, and really has been an asset in drowning out any sort of like feedback from the poker community at large, because it's like, yeah, who are you? Like, I don't,
Right.
I don't
Right.
know you. Why should I value your opinion on this hand over my own? And I know that, like, that's going to come off as probably arrogant,
No, no, no.
but
What I was actually about to say is that, and I didn't want to get sidetracked, but it
sure,
is Philosophical Friday after
yeah,
all.
that's true.
So, one philosophical tangent about this. Yes, you say you do not want to look stupid, but here's the thing: who is the number one person you care the opinion of? If
Me,
not
myself.
exactly,
That's it.
exactly. So if you're not judgmental about yourself, like, you care less and less about what other people think, because you want the approval of yourself first and foremost. And this is, by the way, across the board for everybody, right? For those areas of life where we feel the most insecure, these are typically the areas of life where we don't approve of ourselves first, right? I mean, this is, you're gonna say, what's this crazy beard you have, Duncan? This is exactly, it means you don't approve of your own beard, right? Or in my case, you approve of your own beard a little bit too much. That's equally a problem. Now, all jokes aside, I do think this is relevant. Like it kind of shows that how important the opinion of ourselves can be in a situation like this. But anyway, end of tangent. We can.
Yeah, no, I think that's really just good stuff. And ultimately, like, who else is there, right? Like, who else's opinion can we really value above our own when it relates to these types of endeavors, especially like when it's just such a big part of your existence, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I do think there is like value in leasing out like the metacognition to a coach who can help upgrade your thought process and upgrade your conscious ability to rationalize your way through hands. But like at the end of the day, the guys, what's interesting is that at the end of the day, the guys that I find have the most success are like, they're open to feedback, but like when they genuinely believe they understand a situation and like they get feedback saying, nah, I wouldn't call here, they just say, I don't care what you say. Like, I'm calling here, period, because like I believe, like I just know that it's the right thing to do. Like those guys are really the ones that have the most success in my experience.
Right. And if you think about it, what is feedback, right? It's basically, can you give me more data points so that I can actually self-analyze myself better, right? I mean, if you value the opinion of somebody, it's not because you value the criticism necessarily itself. But even if there's criticism in the what you value is all of the tools that you can actually self-criticize yourself. Right. It essentially comes down to this. So it would be arrogant to say that we do not need any external stimuli to update the way we view the world, because that's actually incorrect. We do need all of the external stimuli, but in the end of the day, we use that external stimuli to actually make personal judgments of ourselves.
Yeah. So basically, like, there are all these data points that you prioritize when making a decision in poker. And like when you get feedback, you access other data points maybe you weren't aware of that you may want to prioritize over what you were thinking about. However, in some cases, you can get all the data points in the world and you still say, no, I'm prioritizing what I know over all of those. And that I think is what's key here, is that like, just because you gain access to all those data points doesn't mean that you should prioritize them over what you thought initially, but sometimes you should, right? Absolutely. And that's where you calibrate, right?
Absolutely. I do have a question for you back to the idea of the poker dream. Was there something in chasing your poker dream that helped you with other areas of life, other aspects of life?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's endless, right? Like poker is just such a great training ground for dealing with life and like what is viewed as commonly as like failure. Making the right decision with the information that I have and being able to live with whatever result comes is just something that poker has just strengthened. It's a muscle that like poker has made just totally strong. And these days, if something doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But like, I made the best decision, and that's kind of served me well throughout most of my adult life. Just being okay with like, okay, I'm going to do this, let the chips fall where they may. And then just kind of move on.
Absolutely. And also what they say, right? Which it's a little bit of a cliche, but there is some truth in most of cliches that, those people who can succeed in poker, they can succeed in a lot of other areas of life too.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people who, if we want to talk about, like, for example, financial success, poker is probably not the most, lucrative area to be if you can handle the risk and you're competitive and all of these things. So that's actually something interesting, that the dream, that the competitiveness dream, or the dream of flexibility, or the dream of being a boss of yourself, can actually potentially lead you to other areas of life.
Right. And I think that's another thing that poker strengthened, is like being responsible for my results and my decisions, right? Because ultimately, you have to be responsible in poker for the decisions that you make, because the outcome is your livelihood, right? Like Absolutely. It's how you make your living. And like with building a business, right? I realized with a podcast, like pretty quickly that like nobody's going to come in and like save the day and
Right.
like sponsor the pod for
Right.
billions of dollars, right? I've got to take responsibility in building my own business,
Right.
which means I've got to be uncomfortable. I've got to learn different skills that are necessary in business building that maybe poker hasn't taught me, right? Because like that's just the reality. So like, yeah, taking responsibility has been another big part, big lesson that I've learned from, chasing my poker dreams over time.
Absolutely. And you reminded me of something now. You reminded me the idea of, like, let's say, complaining about bad beats. How is that related to what you're saying? Like the idea of responsibility. There is something so demeaning to ourselves to complain about a bad beat, right? I mean, you're basically saying, I am not responsible. The universe is out there to get me, right? So there's nothing more hopeless and more demeaning to our personality and ourselves to say that somebody else is in control of us, right?
Yeah,
Including
you're victimizing yourself.
Exactly. And I think I don't want to use words like heavy words like disgusting, but this is really bad. But I find that really bad. Again, I'm always talking for myself. I've made that clear since day one. Like, I would not want to be in that position. The only thing I hate more about the bad beat is to blame it on something else, which is, I mean,
the dealer,
the deal. I mean, yeah, that's right, exactly, and or the anything else, and actually that can potentially be detrimental if one is not careful with a game like poker. Because I remember early on in my career, like, I would never ever assign blame to anything else but myself, and that's also problematic because there is luck involved in the game. So we need to be able to find where to draw the line. But like I can't stress that out enough. For my case, there's nothing I hate more than just assigning responsibility outside. Maybe it's too arrogant, if you will, in some sense, but it's just like, it's so unfree.
In poker, you have to take responsibility for your decisions, and you have if you complain about like getting aces in and tell the world because like villain had queens and they got cracked, like
aces got cracked.
80% of the time is not 100% of the time. And if you don't understand that in the world of poker, you're in trouble, right? Like, you are really in trouble because 20% of the time is not an insignificant number, and it's going to happen quite frequently, right? And yeah, the cliche is that like luck has to be a part of the game, right? Else there wouldn't be a game. But the reality is just take responsibility for your results. For you play 200K hands and you're losing, and you're blaming like variance and runouts, like, no, like, look in a mirror, really, and think about the decisions that you're making over and over and over again, and figure out how to upgrade those. Because like, the reality is you're probably making poor decisions, which is leading to your bad results over time, and it's never going to change. It will literally never change until the day you take responsibility for your results. And in taking that responsibility, it is extremely empowering.
And incidental, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It just gives you something that you can control.
No, I was about to say, for the listener, this is how Brad talks to himself, by the way. This is not just, how he's talking to you guys. And I appreciate that. I mean, this is how you basically talk to yourself? Like,
let me tell you. So, like a quick aside here, in the journey of chasing poker greatness and building the business, because the business is a different thing than playing poker. And 7 or 8 months into the podcast, I hadn't monetized the business in really any way other than like private coaching. And I was feeling depressed kind of about the business and growth. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm spending a ton of money every month, like producing these episodes. There's no ROI. I'm spending all my time investing my blood, sweat, and tears in this project, and I'm getting like nothing back. Right. And I was playing a video game, because this is how I was drowning out my sorrows back then.
That's okay.
Dealing with my sadness.
Which one, may I ask?
I was playing a Path of Exile.
I love Path of Exile. We'll come talk about it some other day.
Yeah, I was really, for a month and a half or so, I was playing Path of Exile.
What character were you playing? Like, completely tangent, like witch or like barbarian? Forget about it.
No, I'm never the barbarian. I can't even. I think I was a shadow. But
shadow, got it. Okay, just to lighten the mood a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but really, there was a day where I was sitting there playing, and I thought to myself, "That's it. I'm killing the podcast. It just doesn't make sense to me." And I just had this moment of like, "Wow, you're gonna go out like that? you haven't even tried to sell anything. You haven't tried to make a course. You haven't tried to do anything. And you're just going to go out without even trying. Like, what a waste. Like, how weak is that? And then I said, that from that moment, I texted, Coach Thomas, and we did the Hero Bluff Week, which was like 5 episodes in 1 week promoting a webinar. And really, it was just like, I can't just give up and not even try to sell something. I can't even give up and not even try to like make this work. And I ended up selling like 21 copies, which at like $50 a piece, which, was like $1,000, which obviously is nowhere near as much as I would make playing poker. Like it's not even competitive, but it showed me that that such a thing could be done if I just tried and put myself out there. So I did. And really everything that kind of sprung from that moment where I was playing Path of Exile, just sitting there and on the verge of giving up, to just saying, well, what's the worst that happens? Like in that moment, I took responsibility for my business. I didn't blame anybody else, people for not listening, for the growth not happening, for sponsorship, for anything like that. I just said, I'm taking responsibility. And from that moment onward, I haven't felt any need really for anybody to come in and like swoop in and save the day. Right. It's like, no, I know what this is worth. I know what I'm capable of. And yeah, that moment is very empowering. So like taking responsibility is quite important, whatever endeavor it is. And yeah, it took me 7 months to really take responsibility for the business, because poker, I've already been there, done that.
That's what you're describing right now is essentially chasing the dream, right? That's why it's so tied to what we're discussing right now. I mean, that is chasing the dream, right? I mean, going after the dream. That was the
moment my dream changed too.
Yeah, exactly. This is very beautiful. Any regrets after?
Yeah, not going for it like 4 months before. Like playing Path of Exile for 40 hours a week for about a month and a half. That I would say that's the regret.
Maybe the regret is like the 38 hours, right? I mean, Path of Exile is great. I mean, I haven't played since 2012, but it was a great.
It's game. Fun. It's a really fun game and very addictive, and like I do miss it as much as I miss Rocket League and the other games that I played. But like now, business is kind of everything: coaching, teaching. Which is my new poker dream, right? That's sort of where things changed for me. For a while, it was making a living, and I did that. I paid my way through life. I did all the things that I wanted to do there, and then I kind of just wanted more. I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I wanted more. And I was telling John, he was asking me about like what I'm working towards, and I think like right now, I would have said previously that I was working towards becoming the best cash game poker coach in the world. That was like what a target that I had in my mind, that I was even afraid of saying out loud for fear of like judgment externally. But now the dream has changed, and
again, the judgment can be internal too, right? Because there is like as an educator, there's always a joke that is around my mind constantly. Those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach gym. Right? So this joke is running around my head all the time. And I'm like, okay, at what part is this me trying to be beneficial to society? And what part is that me, getting old or whatever? And this is real stuff that we have to deal on a daily basis, right? I mean, it's real. And also the idea that you mentioned before, I wasn't even sure what I wanted. This is like one of the hardest questions, as it ties, again, a topic for another day, the meaning of life. But essentially, what do we want? The thing is that humans were wired from the ancient ages to actually survive, right? I mean, and it's not easy to bring food at the table typically, right? I mean, it's not easy to survive our basic needs. So we live in a world where for the first time in millennia, we have what is known as essentially free time. We actually have satisfied our basic needs. And all of a sudden we're like, okay, what's next? I have food at the table. I have a shelter above my roof, which is, by the way, still an incredible privilege, right? I mean, we should not forget that at any moment. But even, if we have like, let's say an hour a day, that's something that didn't exist like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, and definitely not back in the Middle Ages, right? I mean, that stuff didn't exist. So we're presented with that challenge of basically finding things to do. So, for anyone who claims, okay, oh, you need to know what you want, well, it's easier said than done, once you get to
yeah, it's a fluid thing. You're changing, and what you want will change in 10 years
too,
as well,
right,
But
let me ask you another, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna close that loop of being the best cash game poker coach in the world. What the ultimate conclusion that I came to was that was not the right target, and the right target for me is becoming the best cash game poker coach that I'm capable of. And I think that's something that is kind of tangible, that I can measure, and also I have an awareness of having more to give. And I think at some point, maybe there are diminishing returns where I'm like, okay, I've given everything that I have to give in this area, and now it's time to like move on to the next target or the next mountain. But there's still a lot more, I think, that I have to give, and a lot more growing that I have to do as a communicator and poker coach. And so like that's my dream right now, is to just maximize my ability to communicate information, help people go from break even or losing players to winning players and crushers, and understand the game fundamentally at a different level that they never would have been able to without communicating with me. Right? That is my dream today, and I know that it will change, and I have a feeling what it will change to. The next phase after that will be to really find my limits as a poker player. That's something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I want to play. I want to battle Garrett. I want to play the big games. I want to just see like what is my limit here, and really give it hell and do everything that I can to kind of find those limits. Because I know that as a player, I have so much more to give that I haven't yet given, and so yeah, that's sort of like my vision for my trajectory, and my poker dream moving into the future. But
this is great.
Yeah, just wanted to close that loop.
No, this is great, and it's an excellent dream to go after, for sure. Again, like the two are not mutually exclusive. That's why it's good to have that criticism in the back of our heads to remind us that like you can be an excellent player and at the same time you can be an excellent coach, right? Like,
well, it actually one sharpens the other, right? Like
correct.
Coaching actually sharpens the playing side,
Correct.
which has given me awareness of like how much more I have to give as a player, right? It's like, wow, like I was able to thrive in this game for close to 20 years. And now I'm fundamentally
you still are thriving, by the way. I mean, you're using a past tense, but that's like you still are thriving in the game. Like this hasn't stopped. Even if you play less, you're still playing the game though. Like that's relevant. I'm playing less too, but like I'm still in the game. Like when I talk to my students, I use examples from things that happen in everyday life. I know because I'm very critical of myself too, with all of the responsibilities as we go older.
I see my guys. I see John's graph, and I'm like, oh, you played like 50K online hands, and you're winning at like 20 BBs per 100. Like that dude is in there, thriving and just like crushing it, right? And that competitive side too. That's the competitive side that's like very alluring.
I know how it feels because I also have like close to 2 million hands online, right? I mean, there was a time I was doing the same thing. Obviously I'm doing this. So I know how it feels.
Here's a philosophical question, right? We only have so many hands of poker we're going to play in our life. And so like not playing poker for 5 years or whatever means that the amount of hands that I have left to play poker goes down over time, right? So yeah. Anyway.
No, this is excellent. I think this is like a very nice story, and like it personalizes that idea of the dream. And I guess one question that we haven't answered is the poker dream alive? Like, is it still possible for people to chase whatever it is that they find interesting in this game?
I can't overstate my opinion on this. I have a consult with a player in the next half hour about joining the Wolf program.
Right.
The dream is very much alive.
Yeah, I really wish I would disagree with that. That would make for a good content.
Go for it. I mean, you can disagree.
I really wish I did. I'm really like real. So we're so on the same side there, 100%.
But yeah. I'm like, at this point, I'm the facilitator, right? I'm positioning myself to be the facilitator of helping people realize their own poker dream. And so like I must believe that the poker dream is attainable,
Sure.
else I would just be like scamming people right now
Right.
by,
Sure.
selling coaching and products and training and, the Wolf program and the CFP. So I believe with every ounce of my being that the poker dream in this day is attainable. And I think it's more attainable than people think if they just kind of drown out the noise, find the right resources, and really believe in themselves and put in the work.
That, that,
Honestly, that's what it requires.
that's exactly right. And I really, really wish I disagreed with that. I do not, like, not even close. The only thing I'm going to say is this, that I think now more than ever, the poker dream is alive, and not just the poker dream, like any dream. We live in a world of opportunity, both in place. I mean, we both happen to be in the United States, but at the same time, we live also in a time of opportunity. So unless we end up killing ourselves, which is not unlikely, this is by far that would be the negative spin that I would put here, because again,
I would say it's inevitable that we kill
it's
ourselves.
inevitable. Yes,
By the
exactly.
way, unlikely, not really. I think it's just an inevitability that's the downfall of the human race. But that's maybe a philosophical topic for another day.
Exactly, especially the likelihood, right? Because I'm probably one of the very few people, sometimes people listen to me and they say, Duncan, I mean, you sound like very positive about life. I was like, you haven't heard my opinion about, the likelihood of human self-destruction, right? Numbers don't look very good. But
I mean, just look at the reality.
Right.
The reality is like, yeah, we've done things. We don't adjust very well. We kind of switch off when we're confronted with information and data that is like contrary to like our experience in the moment, which is sort of what's happening with like global warming and the influence that we have on the environment. By the way, I think like the Earth would be okay over the, well, not the super long run, but like over the longest
humans
run.
May not be okay. Earth is going to be fine.
Earth's going to be okay. Humans are the one that's not going to be okay.
I think George Carlin was actually making a very good point about that. Like, so George Carlin would agree with you. The stand-up comedian / philosopher. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Yes, I agree. 100%.
Yeah,
very true.
So we only have a few more minutes here before we wind down this episode of Philosophical. Which, by the way, great topic, Humberto. Like this is like just really, really fun stuff to talk about.
Shout out, Humberto. This is an excellent topic, and by all means, if you have any ideas, feel free to share them at the Village and
greatnessvillage.com. Hop in Philosophical Friday channel. You can hop in there. Some follow-up questions Humberto had. We can kind of lightning round them.
Sure.
Do you think anything's going to change as it relates to the poker dream? You kind of alluded to it, assuming the Earth doesn't just end on itself,
which is a very big if. But no, all jokes aside, I do think again this is the best time to live in. I did a poll, on Twitter and asked people, if you could be anybody else on the planet, but it would be somebody at random, would you roll the dice? Would you take that chance? And obviously,
No.
Most people say, no, are you kidding me? I mean, things can get much, much worse. This has to do with the locality. Now, if you do the same experiment, and say, would you live in any other time period? People sometimes they all romantic about, what, the 20s or the 80s, but who really wants to live this amazing world of like comfort if they're being right to themselves? Like, I mean, I often say that if we had the things that we have today back in the Middle Ages, will be the equivalent of basically Superman, right? I mean, like the planes, we can go anywhere we want in very fast speeds. We can communicate with one another literally at light speed, like by using videos and stuff. So we have superhuman abilities, like we have developed superpowers, right? I mean, and those superpowers extend to poker, right? I mean, I'm talking, of course, about all the tools available to us. The computers are a form of superpower, right? I mean, we have access to that information now. How we're going to use that information, it's a challenge. That's a different topic. But nobody can find an excuse that there is not enough opportunity. The opportunity is there, right? Somebody may say, well, it's challenging because other people have access to that. Again, that's excuses. It's up to us to take full responsibility to what we can do about all that stuff. But the opportunity is 100% out there.
As long as like live poker is a thing and human beings are playing poker, I think opportunity to make a living playing this game is just going to exist indefinitely, way beyond my lifetime. On the online world, I'm not sure I don't know, but live poker is just going to last forever. That much I'm very confident in.
Right.
Unless maybe, who knows? I don't even want to go down the road of becoming a cyborg and all of those types of
Give
possibilities
us
that
the
it could.
speculation, Brad. That's what people are tuning for. You know, the give
Yeah,
us the
they're
good
just
speculation.
like the Elon Musk like Neuralink,
Yeah,
just like giving real time information like in live poker. But
sure.
yeah, that's not going to be a thing. And yeah, just the dream is alive and well, but you have to
Right.
work hard. You have to take responsibility. You can't
The
blame the
best.
dealer. You can't blame wasted time studying. It's on you to choose the route that you take and to figure out how to solve that problem, right?
Right.
And it is a big problem. It is overwhelming, figuring out how to realize your poker dream in the same way that like when it came to building out the Wolf program, it was overwhelming, right? It's like, oh, I've got to teach people how to like be crushers and build out strategies for like every scenario that
Right.
they'll encounter. Yeah, that's a big freaking challenge and very overwhelming. And like it hurt my head. And sometimes I would think about it and go lay down on the couch and just kind of like stare into space, and then wake up the next morning and have ideas and just follow those ideas and see
That's
what
right.
happened. Sometimes they were trash.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they're terrible
the,
ideas.
the majority of the time. No, again, not Brad in particular. I mean, we brought the Thomas Edison example before, right?
Yeah.
Before he got the light bulb, like 1,000 failed attempts, right? That's most of the ideas we have are supposed to be trash. That's what I try to keep reminding our students, right? We want mistakes. Like without mistakes, it means we haven't even tried, right? We need mistakes to navigate and to correct. You know, that's the way we change things. So
Yeah.
like we want the trash. We want a lot of trash, as a matter of fact. The more trash, the more good ideas we're probably going to have, the higher the chance.
Yeah, and as it relates to my poker dream, I guess I'll close on this thought for my side. Like, the interviews when somebody like gets interviewed after busting out of a tournament, and they're like,
Mhm.
this is the best poker I've ever played in my life. I'm
Right,
shocked that I got busted out here, right? Like,
right.
I have always looked on at those interviews with such contempt,
I was
like
expecting that. Yes.
fully just so it's full contempt of like, wow, like that is crazy to me. I can't. I can't play 100 hands of poker without like being like, wow, I had like 5 of these situations. Like I need to look at them because like I'm very, very unsure as to whether or not I played them optimally. Hands that I
Right.
win, it's like, did I max? It's like
Oh
there's
yeah.
always a thing that you can look to improve in this game, and settling and saying that you played perfectly over like 4 days straight is just such a steaming pile of bullshit. It's just
Yeah.
not possible.
Right.
You're being lazy, or you're not looking hard enough to improve like every single day, because yeah, in this game, like you find a really good move, you look for a better move. That's
Right.
a chess quote that yeah, GJ is fond of using in the community. But like you
Right.
find a good move, you look for a better move. Don't be satisfied with good. Look for great. Look for excellence. So anyway, that's sort of like, yeah, my if that gives any insight into like how I view poker greatness, that's poker greatness, and it's somewhat unpleasant.
It is very unpleasant. Exactly. You mentioned that in one of our previous podcast, right? The idea that you gotta be a little bit crazy in the head, right? I mean, like in order to be able to sustain all this. To your point, when I have a losing session, I don't sleep for 3 nights, and that's not very healthy, and I don't recommend to people. But I'm running every scenario in my head, and it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly right. So that's
and when you
that's
have a
not
winning session, you don't sleep for 2 nights. So
that's exactly correct. You're not sleeping for 2 nights, and you're like, maybe I could have won more. And it's like,
right.
that was a crazy spot, or I made that mistake there. That was it's very, 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 very true.
Yeah, cool. I mean, this has been great topic, and I actually just ties into what it takes to be a winning poker player as well. I think a past philosophical Friday from either last week or the week before. But Duncan, it's been great as always. I'm gonna actually be seeing you this weekend. We'll be hanging out. I'm very much looking forward to that. So if you don't have anything else to add, we'll just shut it down.
That would be all, Brad. Thank you very much.